Hello, Geeker Things. Wade here, and today we're going to be talking about the vintage collection. What about it exactly? Well, me and my good friend Liam,
Hi, we're going to be making a tier list, D through S.
thought we'd do a casual video and kind of just make a tier list from S, A, B, C, and D, ranking all 115 of the original 2010 through 2012 vintage collection figures, all the way from Dengar to Darth Vader, the Emperor's Wrath. So, before we begin, if you're a Star Wars fan and a vintage collection collector, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this. All right, Liam, what's our first one that we're going to be looking at today?
First one, we have Dengar. This is a fantastic figure. I love it. The face sculpt is just incredible. Looks exactly like the actor. I don't have any personal connection to this figure, so I wouldn't let nostalgia get in the way of what my ranking is, but just on its own, I think it would be an S tier, just based on the figure alone.
Yeah, you know what? I have to agree because this TVC figure really knocked it out of the park. It was a home run when it first came out, and it is the definitive Dengar figure, if you ask me. Absolute perfection. Looks just like Murray Bush, the guy that played Dengar. It's better than the 6-inch. You literally cannot ask for better when it comes to an action figure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's all the more impressive given its scale.
Yeah, so I think you're right. This is definitely an S tier figure. All right, next up we have Leia Organa VC02 in her Hoth outfit. Now, this figure is pretty good. The likeness to Carrie Fisher is pretty decent as well. I really do love this outfit, but I gotta say, as a figure, as beautiful as it is, it's not the most exciting one, and I definitely have other Leia outfits that I do personally like more. For
I
me,
agree. It's not my favorite Leia outfit. I mean, it's fantastic. I would probably rank it in my own personal bias. I would probably put the A New Hope outfit ahead of it. However,
yeah,
given what it is and what it's going for, I think it did a good job. But like you said, it's not all that exciting of a figure. It's not groundbreaking in any way. I would probably rank it as a B or C.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well. I think overall, there's definitely better ones out there, so I think we'll just keep it at a C for this one.
Next up, we got the Hoth Han Echo Base specifically. I don't know how I feel about this figure. I mean, it's good in the sense that the sculpting is really nice. I don't like the head sculpt. It's definitely looks nothing like Harrison Ford, but
Yeah, I
with the
agree.
scale, you come to expect that. Um, I would also put this as a C. It's not my preferred Han look, especially given that there are other better Hans to come in this line.
Yeah, I feel pretty indifferent towards this Han. I like it as a variant, but that head sculpt isn't the best, nor is the paint apps, and especially those like bushy dark eyebrows. For me personally, it kind of detracts from the figure. So for me, I'm gonna have to say it's a D. It's not the worst, but it ain't the best either. So what would you put Han? Should we put him at a C or a D?
Uh, I would put him as a C because I do like him as a variant.
Okay, we'll put him as a C. All right, next up we have the VC04 Bespin Luke Skywalker in his Bespin fatigues. Now, I actually don't mind this figure at all. I think it's pretty decent, especially for his day, but there's a bit of a thing going on with his uh, lower for his hips, especially the diaper syndrome. I don't know what is going on right there, but like the way they molded his hips for his legs is just the weirdest way possible with that Y joint.
Yeah,
And it really detracts from the figure. And the face sculpt isn't particularly my favorite. So I'd actually say in this case, it's probably another C.
yeah, I agree with all those points. The face sculpting is a little bit squished down. It's not as long as Mark Hamill's actual face. Uh, this particular outfit for Luke is probably my favorite from the original trilogy. It's I don't know, it's just so iconic. It gives me it reminds me of the scene in Empire, the "I am your father" scene, and I think that definitely bumps it up. But like you said, there's a lot of issues with the sculpting and the articulation, especially with the diaper butt syndrome. Yeah, I would put it as a C.
Yeah, and even then, I think it's technically a re-release of the vintage original trilogy collection figure. I think I could be wrong on that, but overall, it's pretty decent for its day. But I wouldn't mind a complete makeover for this figure and an all new sculpt and all new everything.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would want them to go the route of the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett that was just recently released. I would want them to do a full rehash.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem like it would happen, especially given that they already re-released this figure in their new line.
Yeah.
Which does it have Phototech reel, or did they skip out on
that? No, it had Phototech reel, and it's decent, but I think I'd still prefer the original over Phototech.
Yeah. I'll let you cover this guy since I know you like him.
All right, so next up we have Vc25 Atat Commander. Now, personally, I really do like this figure. I think the outfit for it is pretty good, and it resembles well what we saw on screen. The colors are a little off. It's all a pretty solid, like light gray kind of color. It's not as maybe dark as it should be. And as much as I want it to be General Veers, I just know it isn't, because the head sculpt doesn't look like Julian Glover, or like the actual costume itself doesn't match it either. But as a standalone, just Imperial officer kind of character, this guy is pretty cool. My only real complaint with this is probably the goggles. I wish they were fitted a little better so that they can fit inside or over the helmet itself so that it could cover the eyes. But other than that, I think it's a pretty decent figure. For me personally, I'd probably say it's a B.
Yeah, it's definitely one to have in your collection, be it display or just to fill in your Imperial army. But yeah, I do remember the actual gray of the costume being significantly darker, as well as having a bluish tint, if I remember correctly. Not overtly blue, but more blue-gray.
Yeah, just
and
so
I think
slightly.
it is missing that. However, just as like a standard Imperial trooper, like you said, it's great for that. And maybe the darker blue is more so of a Hoth variant. So I would put this as a C for me, but I could also see it being a B.
Yeah, I think just because we've gotten so many C's so far, let's make it a B just so we can add some variety to it. All right, what's the next one we're going to be looking at?
We have the Empire Strikes Back C-3PO. I'm very complicated with this figure. On one hand, I really like that they included the feature to remove his panels, but it makes him feel a little busy at times. And if I recall correctly, they don't stay on incredibly well. And that could just be the figure that I used to have. But that's just kind of what I remember about it. It's a cool feature, but for a standard C-3PO, I think it would have been the route to go if they had just made him a little bit more default. Although given it is Empire Strikes Back, so having the removable panels was kind of integral to the story. So I applaud that they did it, but it could have been executed a little better.
Yeah, I think the C-3PO is pretty good. I really do appreciate this one, especially the coloring on it, and I love the removable panels feature and the removable limbs. That definitely seems like a modern throwback to the original, the 1980s Kenner C-3PO with the net that Chewbacca can hold on his back. But for this one, personally, my only real gripe with it is the fact that he is way under scale. He's way too short, and it's just not right. I wish he was a little bit taller, but overall for me, I think I actually would say he's a B tier figure.
I agree. He should be a B tier figure. It's kind of odd that he was a little small, because with the removable panels and removable limbs, you'd think that they would make him a little bigger. I would expect him to be overscaled, but underscaled. Kind of a surprise.
Yeah, definitely. Now, this next one is pretty cool. We're now at VC07. This one is Dak Ralter. Now, if you ask me, this figure, he's pretty cool, actually. As just a basic Rebel snowspeeder pilot, this guy really does hit it home. He's got a very nice flight suit, like his gun that he has as well. And overall, it was just a neat inclusion to have the first Dak in... Boy, how many years was it? Was the last Dak we got, was it in original trilogy collection, or was the last Dak actually Power of the Force? That time it might have been. I can't remember.
I don't remember. I'm not particularly brushed up on my DAC figure lingo. However, I do think that the coloring on the jumpsuit is really fantastic. The head sculpt underneath I've actually never seen quite, so I couldn't really comment on that. But I can't imagine ever having his helmet off during a display. I would actually put this figure in the B slot. I think he's a solid figure, and if you're not using him for DAC, you could also use him as a Rebel pilot in your collection.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Yeah, I think overall we have to give him a B just because he's a solid figure. I'd say the only thing wrong with the original release that I remember was probably the paint apps on the face. They were a little of an odd yellow creamy color, which just happened because they applied paint over the molded plastic of what is it? His Rebel flight suit with like the weird like earmuffs and like I don't know what the heck you call it, the hood going around it.
They put the fleshy color over the gray mold.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes it a little odd, but the Orange Black Series 3.75 inch re-release of that figure actually made it even better and improved it. So I think overall it's still a pretty solid B. Now, what about this next one, Liam?
All right, this is the Empire Strikes Back Vader. Now, personally, I love soft goods and cloth goods and just anything that can flow on a figure. And so I really do like that he's got the cloth goods on the torso, on the legs, and the cape. The thing that really marks it down for me, and it marks it down a lot, is the helmet. It's due to its removable feature, which I do like. I think it's cool that they added that, and I think they did it really well, especially since it would come apart in two pieces, just like in the movies. But when the helmet's actually on, it kind of looks like a bob cut, and it really doesn't lend itself to the silhouette. So I would have to put this as a C.
Honestly, I do appreciate this Vader as well. I think overall it's pretty decent, especially for its day, but I'm going to have to give it a D tier only because there's better Vader figures released in the vintage collection.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I think I have to give it a D just because it's not the worst, but it's certainly not the best either.
Well, you know what? I'll change mine to a D as well because it is nice to have the under face is not actually accurate to Empire Strikes Back, if I'm not mistaken, because in that movie, he had a little bit more of like a kind of a burnt, fleshy color to him.
It was more like Return of the Jedi look.
A little bit more red and orange tones. And I think that if they had maybe labeled him as Return of the Jedi, it would have been a little bit more accurate, but I'll move it down to D for accuracy's sake.
Yeah. All right. This next one, we have the Vc29 Boba Fett from The Empire Strikes Back. Now, when this figure first came out, it was pretty cool. I'll give it that. I did appreciate it, especially having the removable helmet with the interesting face underneath it. It's not quite Tamora Morrison.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's trying to be Jeremy Bullock or, I don't know, trying to mimic a Jason Wingreen Boba Fett or what, but it's interesting. But I gotta say, overall, this Boba Fett figure hasn't really aged that well over the past decade. So I honestly have to give this a D tier. As nice as it is, I think there's just better ones out there.
I would argue that it's a C in the sense that while the helmet is removable and it really does mess with the shape of the helmet. That is definitely something that marks it off severely. But there's also some inclusions within the figure, like the under head, which it doesn't look like Tamora Morrison. That's interesting because at this point in time when these were being released, Attack of the Clones had already come out, and Tamora Morrison already has his Jango Fett, and it was common knowledge that Boba Fett was a clone. So it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's a little weird that they went for that. But, if they were going for Jeremy Bullock, I understand that. That's kind of cool that they did that. I think it's cool that they added the feature of the pistol, which I think could have easily gone overlooked. Mm-hmm. I would have to say it's a C because it is a decent figure. I wouldn't say it's the worst of the vintage collection. I would say it's just below average.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the worst either. So I'll definitely give it a C in that case, just to give it some respect because it is still pretty good. Now, what about this next one?
Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. I love this figure. so much. The problems that I had with the last figure immediately swept away. I obviously I love the soft goods on the original, and I like that they carried that over. And not only that, but they added some battle damage to the actual cape that he has right under his jetpack exhaust. You can see like little holes cut into the fabric. Additionally, the helmet is perfect. Well, not perfect. It's definitely not a completely accurate sculpt to the Return of the Jedi look. However, given that it is solid, it does spread out more. It's a little bit more bucket-like, and it has the articulated rangefinder, which I adore. I think all Boba Fett figures should have that. And I was kind of disappointed to see that it wasn't included on the new Vintage Collection re-release that they made, especially given that it is a solid head.
Yeah. And just to clarify, that one's not a re-release. That one's an entirely brand new figure.
Yeah,
And-
sorry.
Yeah.
I meant in the sense that they recently released another Return of the Jedi, Return of the Jedi Boba.
Yeah, and I have a real soft spot for this figure as well. I had the 30th anniversary collection version. Got it in Celebration 2015 for like $12 or something, and it was $12 well spent. It's a solid figure. Even to this day, it holds up pretty well. Like the helmet isn't bad. It's got the flare at the bottom of it. It's got nice proportions, good soft goods, and like you said, the rangefinder. I honestly still have to give it an A tier, even with the new one out. This one still kicks
the
butt.
only problem with it is the leg articulation. It's a little weird, given that at this point they had already started putting out figures that were capable of side movement. So I would also give it an A, but just below an S tier, and to be honest, only really because of that minor nitpick.
Yeah, I think this Boba is definitely worthy of an A tier, just because of how great he is. Now, this next one is my favorite bounty hunter from The Empire Strikes Back. We have the VC10 Forlom, and I absolutely adore this figure. This was one of the first TVC figures I got, not the first, but it was pretty close to being one of the first. I got him actually when Liam took me to Age of Comics back around 2015 or so, and they had him on the pegs for like $10, and of course I got him. There was no way I could resist not getting Forlom, and the figure is pretty decent. It's a little limited in the shoulder area with those the shoulder pads on the side of it. It's a little restrictive, but I think overall it does justice to what the character looks like, especially holding his gun on the ground to the side like that. That's total classic Forlom pose. I think the head sculpt is pretty good and everything, and I still love this figure, but that new Disney Parks version that's already come out, which I need to buy, which by the way, if you guys are selling one, please let me know because I need it. But anyways, I still think this Forlom figure is a real beauty. And for me personally, I would like to give it an A tier, but that's just bias talking. So I'm probably going to have to give him a B tier.
I agree with your B tier in the sense that like I do like this figure as well, but like you said, the body is a little bit, you can see that it's an older figure. It's not as articulated as I would like it to be. It's not awful by any means, and it's pretty good. Like I said, it would be a B tier, but I don't know. I never pictured Forlom to be as bulky as that. And I understand it was a different mold than the C-3PO body, but still, it feels like he's just a little too boxy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just a tad bit.
Just a tad.
I think
I
overall,
look forward to seeing the new Disney Parks version, see if they.
Oh, it looks stunning. I really need to get that one. Oh boy, Liam, what's next?
Oh, my favorite. The Cloud Car Pilot. It's a good figure. I mean, it's a well-made figure. It's looks good. It's just kind of meh. Like it's a Cloud Car Pilot. I don't know. I can't really explain why I don't care for this figure other than it's just kind of whatever. His mustache is pretty great though.
Yeah, I think the mustache is the best part about this figure. I mean, it's like what you said. He's not going to be an overly amazing character. There's not much you can do with him other than he's a Cloud Car Pilot and you need two of them.
Yeah.
But I think when the figure did come out, he was pretty exciting because during that time we actually did have a new Bespin Cloud Car. so he could definitely have a vehicle to ride with. But overall, he's just a D. Not because he sucks, but because he's just a little
Without the
basic,
cloud car, he's essentially,
just there.
yeah, he's just kind of there. So yeah, I would put him as a D.
Yeah, and no dissing the figure or the people that worked on him. He's still a great figure, but in the grand scheme of things, even back in the 80s, he was still kind of a peg warmer. So
Yeah.
really not much you can say or do about him. Okay, now Liam, what about this next one?
This is the Revenge of the Sith Palpatine, I believe, and I love this figure. It was probably my favorite when I was growing up. It was the one I remember I got it at Toys R Us, and it blew me away. So when I was a kid, like interchangeable hands were never around, not especially not like they are today with Marvel Legends and Black Series. So the fact that he had an interchangeable lightning hand just blew my mind. The soft goods, the unique soft goods, they're kind of puffy, a little bit like a fur, but it's not in the movie. It's more like a velvet in the movie. But this captures it perfectly and puts it directly into 3¼ scale. The removable hood also just again blew me away as a kid because at that time Palpatines didn't really have removable hoods. They were usually just traffic cones with paint on them. And so this figure, when I first got it, made everything. And the lightsaber that it comes with, while most of the Revenge of the Sith releases for this figure or for this variant, or just in general Sidious releases that include a lightsaber, often have the hilt painted more of a brown. This one is a perfect bronze. It looks exactly like in the movie. It's shiny. It's amazing. I'm going to have to say it's an S tier.
Yeah, I really do like this Palpatine as well. And costume-wise, yeah, I'll admit, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite with the red and everything. But this particular one, this Palpatine knocks it out of the park. You get the lightning attachment for the hands. You get a great saber and his hilt, the fur and soft goods, and then just the removable hood itself. All in all, it's a solid Palpatine, and it really encompasses what a great Palpatine figure should be. I would personally say it's an A tier, but for you, we'll make it an S tier because it really is one of the best Palpatines that you can buy. And I just got my first carded one just a couple of days ago, and I'm ecstatic to have it. It's super duper cool. I love it.
I dropped mine recently, and it broke my
Ugh. It's terrifying. Let's not talk about that.
heart.
All right. Now, next one, we have VC13, Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. Now, this figure, I'll be honest, I think it's pretty good. I really do love that they specify it as Darth Vader because it has the yellow Sith eyes. And overall, I think the figure holds up well to today's standards. But I'll be honest, I think I would have rather preferred definitive Episode 3 Anakin Skywalker just to have for the vintage collection. But at the same time, I really do love this figure. So for me, I'm probably going to have to give it a B tier.
I agree with you on this one. I think it was be a C tier, but hear me out on it. I would have also really preferred a more definitive Episode 3 Anakin with his more standard Jedi robes, normal eyes. Although given that it is meant to be like the battle on Mustafar, and that's why they have the belt sculpted to be crooked, which I don't like, but it was like that in the duel, so I give him points for accuracy. It's pretty good. The hair paint, I recall being just a little bit weird, like a little bit the blonde highlights that they did over the brown didn't really mesh well. They weren't applied as well as I think they could have been. But yeah, I'd put him as maybe a B.
Okay. I think I'll definitely put him at a B. He's a pretty solid figure still to this day. All right, now what about this next one?
Actually, I know you like this one, so I'll let you cover it.
Okay, so this one is the VC14 clean version of the Sand Trooper. I think it's a pretty decent figure overall. I do like the weapon of choice that it has, and I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me right now, but I think it's the heavy repeating blaster rifle or something like that. Overall, it's a white pauldron Sand Trooper, and I'm a sucker for any kind of Sand Troopers. But I'm just going to have to probably give this a D tier because it's not the most exciting. and there's a better version of the Sand Trooper from the vintage collection. So what do you say?
I agree with you. I would put it as a D tier, but I think for a different reason, not necessarily because it's unexciting, because I truly do like the Sand Troopers. I just really don't like that helmet mold. And I do like that it's solid, and I do think that standard stormtroopers should have solid helmets. But the way it's sculpted, and of course it didn't look like this at the time, but now it really reminds me of the Rebels character models for stormtroopers, and I really don't like how they did that. So I don't know. It's just a little bit too like stretched and like wobbled weirdly. So I'm gonna put it as a D.
Yeah, I hear you about that.
And
All
then
right, now what
next,
about this next one?
we got the Clone Trooper from Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, it's the Phase 2 Clone Trooper. This is a solid Clone Trooper. The body, of course, is great. It's got amazing articulation. Um, the helmet is not bad. It's fairly good. It's a little bit floppier, but I know you'll touch on that in a minute. The body is just, I like it. I think that the original Revenge of the Sith line is probably my favorite. I like the articulation on that. I like the inclusion on the original release figures that they had the ability to have an antenna on their back. I liked that. And I love the original helmet molds for the clones. I love them to death. But this, speaking on vintage collection alone, this figure is pretty good, but it's also, I know that there are repaints of this figure that are far better than this initial release to come. So I would put it as a C. It's still a good figure, but it's certainly not the best that they've released, even for this mold.
Yeah, I think I do have to agree with you now. Even though this mold for this clone trooper type for the body is controversial because many people complain about the small P head that it has and then the overly large bucket head helmet that it has. Personally, it does not bother me. I really cannot explain how or why. It just doesn't. I absolutely adore this figure, and I would love to army build this specific type of the body just because I think it has excellent articulation, and I think in this case the Y joint crotch works pretty well for the hips. And overall, I think it's still a solid clone trooper, and I don't mind it one bit. So for me, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you and give it a C tier. Now, this next one, oh boy, this is another exciting one. Now we're getting into some real good stuff here.
Yeah.
We have the VC16 Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith. I absolutely adore this figure. I especially love the red boots that it has. I love that it has the Jedi cloak. I love the saber hilt that it has and the ignited saber, but also the fact that it has his little microphone attachment. So you could really simulate him piloting his Jedi interceptor, which they made a TVC vehicle of. I have that somewhere in my room, but I just thought that was really good planning and forethought on Hasbro's part to do that because it's such good playability that you can buy this figure and then when you get his ship, boom, you can have Pilot Obi-Wan from the opening of Revenge of the Sith. And I think it's a solid Obi-Wan. It's probably I'd say my favorite Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan figure to date so far.
I agree with you on that. I think that the head sculpt is certainly the best likeness to Ewan McGregor, and at the very least, in terms of Revenge of the Sith. It's far superior to his initial Revenge of the Sith line release with like I think in 2005. I do like it a lot, but it's also, I'm not going to say that it's one of the best. I would put it as a B, but it's definitely not. It's just shy of an A, and like just barely.
Yeah, I think overall I'd have to give it a B too, just because it's solid. But I feel like maybe one day we could get better. Who knows? Now, what about this next one?
This General Grievous. I definitely like him a lot. He's really incredible. I think that the cape printing and the inclusion of the alternate saber hilts, which can go within his cape, like in the movie, I think that's genius. It's a little too top heavy and a little bit, I mean, it's a little lanky, if that makes sense. And the joints are just super floppy, which makes him hard to stand. But
Yeah. And this is one that I own loose. And this figure is an absolute pain in the butt to stand up. Like, it's unbelievable how ridiculous it is. His legs are so rubbery and bendy. It doesn't even make sense, but for all the faults that this General Grievous has, he really is an impressive figure. I'll give it to Hasbro. The arm articulation is impressive, which they even used as a template for the 6-inch Black Series version, yet TVC still kind of does it better in a way. But I really do think this figure is gorgeous, especially with the cape, how it has the red lining inside and then the printing on the outside. And then, like you said, the sabers included for the hilts and then the ignited ones, but also that it has this droid blaster, like such a minute detail, and yet they included it, and it like makes all the difference in the world. And then especially the part where some people don't know this, but you can actually open up his chest because there's 2 pegs holding it, so you can see his green insides and his lungs, and it's like absolutely crazy how they made this figure.
It's definitely a very fun figure, and I think based visually alone, for all its problems, I would say it's got to be an A tier figure. It is so visually impressive and mechanically impressive. I would say it would be an A.
And he absolutely towers over every other figure, and he looks intimidating. My heart wants to say S tier, but I'll give him an A tier, just because he does have a couple of faults that really just detract. But other than that, this next one we have VC18. We have his bodyguards, the Magna Guards, and these guys are killer action figures. I love that they have cloth goods, which they didn't even need to do, but they did. And then especially the purple lightning effect around their electro staffs. It's a solid figure. You cannot go wrong with this guy, especially army building them. You need like 2 minimum or at least 4.
Yeah, I agree. It's because what's amazing about this figure is that it's got so many, well, not so many, but it's got enough interchangeable parts to where you can have them in different combinations, like how they are in the movie. You can have them with just the hood on and no cape, or with the cape on and no hood, or both or none, and it still looks incredible and exactly like a variant that we see in the movie or even in the Clone Wars cartoon series. So it's very versatile in that sense. You can plop it right into that collection, not notice the difference. It's incredible. It's visually just outstanding. I would put it as an A.
I agree.
It's so incredible and it's so versatile. It's just amazing.
Yeah, hands down, it really is. Now, what about this next one?
I like it. I like it a lot. It's a very good figure. I think with the inclusion of his Emperor hologram, I think that it just makes the figure, especially given the Order 66 scenario. I think the removable backpack is kind of a cool concept, but I think it would have been just as good if they had kept it on. He comes with Obi-Wan's lightsaber as well, the hilt, which I think is cool, but it's also a little bit unnecessary because if you don't already have the Obi-Wan figure, there's no real point to having him with the lightsaber. And the Obi-Wan figure himself comes with the lightsaber hilt. So if you ever were going to have a display scenario where it's Cody handing you the lightsaber, you would need a Kenobi already there. So I think that's a little bit pointless, but also it's an incredible figure. I'd say A tier.
Yeah, I think I do agree with you. This is an A tier figure, just because for the Commander Cody, this one is a repack of the original Legacy Collection one from around 2009. But it's an impressive figure. It honestly is, with its accessories, the backpack as well, but also the Emperor hologram is what really seals the deal on this one. But also the helmet, like it seems pretty proportional to the body. In fact, it really excellent. And then the head sculpt underneath it is quite amazing as well. I'd venture to say this is the best original clone Commander Cody that they've made to date, and probably one of the best clone figures they've made of all time, honestly.
Yeah, I would venture to agree on that one. It's definitely one of the best. And yeah, what you were saying about the helmet, it doesn't have the same, at least not to the same scale, a problem as the other figures with removable helmets. It doesn't really fold or like squish together in any like super awkward way, but it's nice for the feature and it definitely looks good. I'd
Yeah.
put that definitely as an A tier. For our next one, we're looking at Revenge of the Sith, little Yoda. A lot of people don't like this figure. I personally do, but it's not for any like big earth-shattering reason, and I could definitely see the problems with it. For instance, it is a smaller figure, and with that, and it, including cloth goods, which I do like, but the cloth goods here are just super baggy and super like just he looks like he's in a winter coat as opposed to like his little robe. Um, he does come with a lot of accessories though. I mean, comparatively to other vintage collection figures, which on their own don't seem like as much, but when coupled with the because he comes with the deflecting force lightning effect, and when you apply that with the Darth Sidious lightning hand, it's incredible.
Yeah,
So I would
absolutely.
actually give this figure a B because I know that it does have severe flaws that I could not justify. So yeah, B for me.
Yeah. And I really do appreciate this Yoda figure as well. I do think it's probably one of the better Revenge of the Sith ones we've gotten, but I want to say if they actually took the Mission Series 2014 head sculpt of that, you remember that 5 POA Yoda? The
Yeah,
head sculpt on that, I want to say that head sculpt might actually be better than this one, and that looks more like Revenge of the Sith. If they did something like that to improve it, it'd be a much better figure than what it is. It's his face is just a little weird and a little scrunched, like he's constipated or something like that.
yeah, he's very scrunched. I think that the best, at least in my opinion, and obviously this is subjective, but I think that the best prequel looking Yoda is actually the Tartakovsky variant, where he comes with his which the name escapes me at the moment, but his big space horse.
Of the Kaibuck.
Yeah, the Kybucks. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Of course, I even have the figure, so I should know that. But I think that that head sculpt is pretty great. It looks a little bit more youthful than your average prequel Yoda, but it also just kind of encapsulates the aesthetic they were going for. And I think, obviously, I wouldn't head swap it or anything. I would keep them as their own figures, but I do like the head sculpt on that figure for prequels.
Yeah, I think I do agree. This one's a pretty solid B. Now, oh boy, this next one. We are now entering VC21 Demorian Guard. One of my all-time favorite action figures ever made. S tier all the way for me.
Yeah, this needs no explanation. It's an S tier. You can't deny it. It's incredible. It's perfect in every way. It's the Demorian Guard.
Yeah,
That's
it comes with
one
his
of the best
axes.
action figures of all time. So,
Yeah,
given that, yeah, we're gonna put it up high on the vintage collection list.
I mean, the fur goods, the axes, the sculpting, and then especially the pig face for him and the horns looks just straight out of Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah,
Better than the Black Series one. This one wins all the way.
and it's
Glossy paint apps to make it look like he's drooling and sweaty. He's perfection.
especially like given the proportions, which often get lost on 3¼ figures. This one is perfectly proportional. It looks like the scene in Return of the Jedi. It's perfect in every way. And
Yeah.
also from Return of the Jedi, Admiral Akbar. I'd say this is a good figure. I mean, it's not definitely not the best, but it's a solid representation of his look within that movie. So yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say about it other than it's a little bit weirdly proportioned, especially in the waist area. I think the paint apps fairly good. I think that maybe the eyes could have a little bit more. I think they're just a little different in color than what I remember, but I could also be very wrong about that. But overall, I would probably give him a C. I think, yeah, I would give him a C.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I'd give him a C as well. He's still a really good figure and a really good representation of Admiral Akbar. But he, as good as he is, there's just more exciting ones out there. So
Yeah.
I think for me personally, I'm gonna give him a C as well. Now, this next one is the VC23 Luke Skywalker Jedi Endor capture variant. Now, I have the re-release of this figure, and it's a bit of a weird one. I won't lie. I'm all for making specific variants and scene variants, but this one is just a tad bit boring. All he has as an accessory is his lightsaber, his hilt, and then also the binders or like the handcuffs for him. And there's not much else you can do with it. And for me personally, proportions aren't bad, but it's really the head sculpt. It doesn't really look like Mark Hamill, and then the hair itself really just doesn't capture it in any way, especially that scene is at night. So the hair is like Mark Hamill's hair in this movie was like a dark brown kind of color anyways. So for me personally, I give it a D just because it's not my favorite Luke out there.
It's, I don't know, it's definitely, there have been better releases for this same costume, not necessarily the scene specific, but I definitely think it would have greatly benefited. And I think I would even move it up to maybe a B or an A if it had the interchangeable flaps where he has the white triangle. I think that's a fantastic Luke variant. And I think had they included that as an interchangeable option, it would have bumped it up significantly. But as it is, and with the odd hair choice, I mean, yeah, Mark Hamill was blonde, but like in the movie itself, throughout most of the scenes, with the exception of some of the Tatooine moments, he's got brown hair. And it's a very bright blonde on the figure. So yeah, I would have to give it a D as well.
Yeah. Now, this next one is actually really exciting for me. I just got this figure the other day as well. This one is the Vc24 Woof, and hands down, this is one of the best vintage collection figures ever made because he's also got unique soft goods, just like the original Kenner figure. He has the vibro axe and he has the pistol. This figure perfectly encapsulates a Jabba goon, and the head sculpt and the helmet and everything just is pure perfection. So for me personally, I think I'm going to have to give him an S tier because he really was a standout figure when they released him back in the day.
For me, I don't particularly care for this figure. I've never been super attached to the Jabba goons. I do like them from a design standpoint, and I think this figure is incredible, especially given its unique soft goods. It's definitely incredibly sculpted and painted on the face and the face, but I don't love it particularly. But you compromised for me on the Sidious, so I would say S tier as well.
Yeah, like this one, it's just a killer TVC figure. Can't go wrong with it. Now, what about this next one, Liam?
Well, it's the I think it's the Return of the Jedi R2D2. It's complicated, my views on this. I think that it's a cool idea that they had him with his drink tray. It's definitely a good idea. I think they only really included it just so he could have more than one accessory, and that way they could also put the Return of the Jedi logo on him. I don't love it. It's not my favorite R2 or Astromech mold. However, it's definitely good. It's just not the best. I would label it as a C tier for me.
Yeah, I think this R2, I'm very mixed on it as well. The exterior of it is very nice. It's actually got a very nice dome as well. But my problem lies with the fact that you have to lift up the sensor scope in order to turn the dome, because once it's inside, it locks it in place to look straight forward. And then when you do that, the third leg is pushed down as well. So you have to have his third leg sticking out like that. Or when you push the third leg up, there goes his sensor scope, and then you can move the dome.
Yeah.
It's honestly a messy design. And I don't know why the Hasbro makers back in the day decided to go for this route, because the sensor scope doesn't even sit. It just sits inside. It doesn't lock in place or anything. And if you just flip it upside down, whoop, there it goes. You lose it forever. And it's really odd from a design standpoint. Personally, for me, I like, my favorite mold is probably the 2005 Revenge of the Sith Astromech molds, like R4 G19 or whatever, R4 P17, and then R2D2 as well. Like, those molds are my favorite, where you turn the dome 360 and then the third leg wheels on down.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Absolutely perfect. I think that that's the correct feature, because I think whenever someone gets their hands on an R2D2, they always, or not on their R2D2, but whenever they get the chance to make it, they're like, oh, we got to make the spinny dome. We got to make it a feature. We got to make it do something. And, you know, that's fine. But I feel like the feature should be appropriate, not just spin the dome and his thing comes out, like the sensor scope and spins around. But like, I don't know. I think that it's the best of a bad situation having the leg come out when you turn the dome. I would personally prefer the dome just be able to turn on its own, and then you could pull out the leg if you want. But given that it has to be a gimmick, I think that the 2005 molds did it best.
Yeah. And the Build-A-Figure R2 molds they're great as well. But I don't know, there's just something about those 2005 ones. They're still fun even to this day. So for me, like you, I think I'd give this a C, honestly. Now, this next one, we have the VC26 Rebel Commando. Now, there's actually two variants to this guy, and we'll talk about both of them. First up, we have the white variant. This guy is pretty cool. The figure itself is very nice. I love the trench coat. I love the weapon that he has, the backpack and the helmet.
Yeah.
And then the face sculpt is pretty cool with the beard. How they did that as well, I really like. And fun fact, a lot of designers, and I want to say a lot of fans as well, say that they modeled this off of Hasbro toy designer Mark Boudreau, because he has a beard, the guy that designed the Millennium Falcon in 1979 for Kenner. So the guy that designed every single Millennium Falcon up until this point. They say they modeled it off of him, but if you ask me, I think it honestly looks more like Jim Swearingen, Jim Swearingen or Jim Swearington, or I can't remember how you pronounce his last name. Yeah. But there is a guy that used to work at Kenner back in the day that oddly enough, looks just like this figure. So who knows? Maybe it's him. Maybe it's Mark Boudreau. I don't know. But for me, as good as this figure is, it's just a C tier just for this variant. We'll talk about the next variant after you talk about this one.
Personally, I don't really care for the... Well, I really like the design of this figure. I think the trench coat is amazing. Honestly, you've covered everything that like I would ever think to say about this figure. I would also put it as a C.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool army builder. But this next one, if you ask me, the black version, oh my gosh, hands down, this is an A tier figure. He is so much cooler than the white version. I want this Revenge of the Jedi one so bad.
It's so cool. I mean, it just bumps the epicness up to 11. Like with the other variant, it's just a standard Rebel Trooper. But this one is just so like, I don't know, the gun that's included. Is it the same one?
I think it might be the same gun. I could be wrong, but I want to say it's like the same figure, same body and everything, just a different head with it. But there's just something about this variant that works so much better.
I don't know, it's just cooler.
Yeah, I agree hands down. This one, easily an A-list figure. I love this variant, and I need to get him.
Well, for this next one, I'm going to let you discuss this because you know my opinions on the Ewoks.
So for this one, we have the VC27 Wicket W. Warwick. I love Ewoks. I love Wicket. So I absolutely love this figure. I love especially the fact that they give him both his red hoodie and his green hoodie. So you could either have him from Return of the Jedi, or if you like it, from the Ewoks cartoon with the green hoodie. And I'm a sucker for that cartoon along with droids. Honestly, I really do love this figure, so my heart wants to give it an A, but I'm going to have to give it a B just because he's very solid. And I know it's kind of a mix with how people feel on Ewoks.
Putting my personal bias aside against Ewoks, it is a solid figure. Like you said, it comes with both the red and green hoods, which I do think is a pretty good figure, especially given the context of the Ewoks cartoon. I would have to say this is a B as well from purely just a figure standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about this next figure?
Wedge Antilles he's so cool. He's one of those original trilogy staples where he's not part of like the main group or anything, but when he shows up, it's always cool to see. And I've always really enjoyed his, I guess, side stories in which he's like more of a main character. And I know, especially in the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy, not the new one, he kind of bumped up in the rebellion his role after he was and I believe it was him who blew up the second Death Star. And I feel like he
Yeah.
just got a lot more character development. And with all that context, putting that into this figure, which looks great on its own, I think I really do like this figure. I would put him as a C tier, but only because just as a figure, I love the character, but as a figure, it's good, it's solid, but it's not one of the best. No, actually, I would put him as a B tier. Just give that little extra for Wedge.
Yeah, I think I do agree with you. I really do love Wedge Antilles as well, especially as the only secondary character that survived the entire trilogy. But as a figure, he is pretty decent, honestly. They captured his helmet well. Figure for the face sculpt, it's pretty decent. It's just there's not a whole lot you can really do with him.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, however, if they did make a re-release of his X-Wing. That would have been pretty cool to see in vintage collection in proper colors and everything. But
yeah, that would
maybe
be
one day we'll see. But I
that'd
think
be a cool re-release with him and his X-wing. If they could, since I do think that the Black Series Phototech was Phototech real for Wedge Antilles, and I think if they scaled that down, put it on a 3.25 figure, gave him the proper colors for his X-wing, it would make a really sweet vehicle pack.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool to see a proper red too. And I think I'll put Wedge Antilles for a B tier as well. Now, this next one is really, really cool. This is a personal favorite of mine as well. This one is the Vc29 Kit Fist, and I think this is a gorgeous action figure. It's pretty darn near perfect, if you ask me, especially with the cloth cloak, the color of the Jedi robes, and his saber look nice and everything. My only critique with this figure, though, I don't know why they gave it an Attack of the Clones packaging when it's clearly Revenge of the Sith sculpt. It's a bit weird, and my only critique with that is I don't think he's as green as he probably could be. Just a tad more green pigment, and he'd be dang near perfect.
I
So
think
he's an A tier for me.
I think he's certainly better than the original 2005 release, and just it further cements the fact that this is a Revenge of the Sith version of Kit Fisto, because in Attack of the Clones it was it was a deeper green than in Revenge of the Sith. In Revenge of the Sith, it was definitely lighter, not this light, but I think that this figure is better than the original 2005 release of Kit Fisto, which is basically just white but with a green tint. This, it's at least a little bit green. I would actually put this figure as an A tier. I love this figure. I think the only reason it wouldn't, I love Kit Fisto too. I think he's one of my favorite Jedi.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that holds this back from being an S tier is, of course, the inaccuracy of the Attack of the Clones labeling. If they had just put it as Revenge of the Sith, it would have been, and maybe Deep in the Green, I think it would have been an S tier, but I'll say A tier.
Yeah, I remember somebody made a Photoshop edit of this Kit Fisto on Revenge of the Sith card back. I think it was him from like a promotional still of him in Palpatine's office or something, and it was like a darker card back, but oh my goodness, it was like a night and day difference between the two. It looked so much cooler on a Revenge of the Sith card back. Like they should have done it, but I'm still pretty happy with what we got. He's a killer action figure, easily an A tier for sure. Now, what about this next one?
Wessel, right? Oh my gosh, this figure is great. I love this figure a lot. I like the character of Zam Wessel. I've always been fascinated by the idea of like shape-shifting aliens, and the fact that they made her a bounty hunter, I think, was also really cool. Good decision. So having her in figure form is incredible. She comes with a lot of accessories, interchangeable parts, features. My only real complaint with this figure is that the interchangeable alien head really clashes with the flesh tone of the neck when you interchange the two. And I think this could have been a simple fix if they had maybe just thought it through just a little bit more. If they had made the costume go up to the neck, like where the actual joint is. And it may not have been as accurate to the costume in the movie, but it would have taken care of the really jarring alien neck problem.
Yeah. I really do love this figure as well with the amount of accessories included and the alternate heads you can have. But very much like what you said, having the alien head with the human skin neck is just a little odd, and I wish they maybe could have tweaked that. But I think for me, it's almost an S tier, but I'm just going to have to give it an A tier, really.
I agree. Same here. If it had included, or not even included, if it had maybe just taken care of that neck issue, it would have been easily an S tier.
Yeah, hands down, I agree with that. Now, this next one, we have the Vc31 Obi-Wan Kenobi from Attack of the Clones. Now, I have this figure both loose and carded, and I really do appreciate this one, actually. I think he's a very nice Obi-Wan. But yet again, I think he's a straight up repack of the Legacy Collection version. And he's not the most exciting one, although he is a very nice representation of it.
Yeah.
I just personally think the Revenge of the Sith one is a little more exciting than this one. So I think just for this Obi, I'm going to have to give him a C tier, honestly.
I would argue that he's maybe a B tier because I'm one of the people that actually doesn't love how Obi-Wan looked in Attack of the Clones. I like the mullet, but I think it's just, I don't know. There's something about it that I didn't really like. Maybe it was the lightsaber, which I do like, but I don't know. Just it's not. It feels like a weird mix between. I don't know. It just it's better in Revenge of the Sith form when he cuts the mullet. That being said, I really like how he looks in the Tartakovsky cartoon. Just at the beginning when he's wearing this outfit, I think when Tartakovsky draws him, it just immensely improves upon the design. And I think that because of that, I would probably put him as a B tier, but I could also see him as a C.
Yeah, I think just for you, I'll put him in the B tier because I really do like this figure still. And I actually really do like his saber as well. I think his saber does have accurate paint apps, which is a really big plus too. Now, what about this next one?
This is a toughie. I think that I like this figure. It's a good figure. The torso printing is impressive to say the least, and of course the cloth goods poncho is always nice to see. The head sculpt it's a little weird, but I mean also that's given with any 3 1/4 figure. I don't think it's anything special. I'm kind of intrigued as to why they didn't do just a standard Attack of the Clones Anakin, especially given that I have a figure of that Anakin and he's got like the removable robot hand, and I think that would have been a really cool feature. But as it stands, it's a good figure, but it's also kind of in the long term. So I would say C.
Yeah, now this Anakin figure I do have loose and carded. I actually really love this Padawan Anakin for the peasant disguise variant. His shirt printing is immaculate for the torso. It is, oh man, it is by far gorgeous. It is so cool how they did it. I'm a sucker for a poncho as well. It's a great figure in my opinion. It is an interesting choice though, because when you think about it, we almost got the definitive Attack of the Clones Anakin in TVC, except Black Series Orange came around,
Yeah.
which that wave, technically speaking, was pretty dang close to being TVC. We just barely missed it, and something had to change.
Yeah.
And it got canceled and all that, unfortunately, or put on hiatus. But I still have to say, I really do like this figure, but it is definitely a C tier. Just because I would rather have the more definitive outfit that he wears than Attack of the Clones. But I guarantee you, the reason why they made him was probably because of the next one. For the VC33 Padme Amidala Peasant Disguise. Now, this figure, on the other hand, absolutely gorgeous. It's a really cool costume variant. It's a very nice Padme. It's not my favorite costume of hers. Once again, I like her more kind of definitive look of her in the Geonosian arena. But this one is pretty cool. You got to admit, having these two released like almost side by side with each other, it's awesome. It's really cool how they did that. So I think for me, for Padme, I'm going to give her a B tier.
I agree. B tier for me as well. I think that this is just an amazing figure. For my personal definitive Padme, I would have to go with, and I think it was released in a 3-pack, but it was it was a live action rendition of it, but it was her in her like Clone Wars movie get up where she breaks into Zero's palace or bar or whatever he owns, and she's got like the mask and like the cape and the cloak, and then when she gets captured, the cape and the cloak go away, and she's just in like an undersuit, and she got the blaster. I think that's probably my definitive Padme. But as it stands, it's a solid figure. Tell us about Jango Fett.
Yeah, this one is pretty exciting. So once again, I have him loose and carded, and hands down, this is my favorite Jango Fett figure released to date, because I love that they have his pistols. They look very nice for 3.75-inch scale. I love that they made his Camino outfit, so he has a poncho, which I already established. I'm a sucker for a poncho. This figure I really do like, especially how you can have him in the pilot look where he has the headset, or you can have the helmet over it as well. And on top of that, it's got the long missile for the rocket launcher in his jetpack.
Yeah,
for me personally, my heart would give this an S easily, but I'd probably have to say it's probably an A.
I agree with the A designation. I think that this mold is perfection. I think it's fantastic. It's beautiful. Everything about it is just amazing. The only thing I don't know. My favorite Jango Fett is this exact same mold, except for I prefer his Geonosian battle jetpack. I just think it matches with the colors, the aesthetic, everything about it. I think it just matches his armor better than the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett jetpack, which he has on the Camino scene, and I think also in the Bounty Hunter video game. That's my personal favorite, but it's the same mold. So if I'm gonna judge this figure, I would put it definitely as an A.
And like you said, they honestly probably could make two variants, like a Geonosian Arena one, but this one is definitely a Camino variant all the way with the very scene specific accessories. It's killer. It is awesome. So it's an A tier for sure. All right, now tell us about this next one.
Alrighty, Mace Windu. This is a great figure. I think it surpasses all other Mace Windu figures in at least the 375-inch scale. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like Sam Jackson, which is apparently really hard because none of the other Mace Windu figures come close for 375. It's pretty solid, but also it's not like the best figure. It's kind of just a B figure, I think. It's incredible for a Mace Windu figure, but it also doesn't come with a whole lot. It comes with this lightsaber, which looks good. It's got good printing, but I wouldn't give it as an A. I would say it's a solid B.
Yeah, I think it's a really decent figure as well. I have him loose. I just need his saber hilt. And overall, I really do like this figure. I think the skin color is perfect for trying to capture a Mace Windu, because Hasbro, they kind of do some odd colors every now and then, especially recently. I don't know why they choose such lighter and more like nougat colors. But this figure to me is a really epic one, and he is easily a solid B. He is a B tier figure. He's very, very good. Hardly any real flaws that I could think of with him, to be honest.
Likewise.
So this next one is pretty unique. We have the VC36 Senate Guard. Now, for me personally, when I look at this costume, it reminds me more of the Phantom Menace look. I don't know why, but when I think of like Attack of the Clones one, I kind of think of like automatically Clone Wars and then Revenge of the Sith, where they have the black visor and they look more like the Emperor's Royal Guard or something like that. I kind of like that more, but I do like this figure because it's really nice. He's got his pistol, which is like hidden. You can have it on the thigh, I think, or maybe it's by the knee like a scout trooper. I can't remember. But you could either have the pistol, you can have the rifle, or you could have the force pike. And he's honestly really cool as a figure, and especially his under armor, really sculpted nice. They didn't even have to go that far, but they went the extra mile for the detail. So for him, as nice as he is, I think I just have to give him a C.
I just did some research and saw that in the Attack of the Clones, they do in fact have the open visor. It wasn't until the Clone Wars in which they got the black visor. So
Oh,
it
okay.
is accurate. But that being said, I think this figure, all it really has going for it beyond the sculpting is obviously it would be incorporated in sculpting, but it's just a pretty figure is the thing. And I think that's all it really has going for it. So I would say a C as well.
Yeah, he's pretty decent. He's got some pretty good soft goods. But this next one is actually pretty exciting. Do you want to start us off with it?
Yes, this is the Super Battle Droid, and it's a great figure. I think that as far as articulation goes, pain apps especially, just everything's done to perfection. There's actually a funny story about it, which I will let you tell now.
So for this one, this specific TVC figure, as random as it is, it really does hold a special place in my heart because we used to have these stores called Hastings Entertainment before 2016. Unfortunately, they closed. But when they were closing, there was a particular location, and I searched high and low trying to look for the TVC Super Battle Droid that they had there, just because I knew I needed to get it before they closed down the store and if it was gone forever. And I spent like a good solid couple of hours looking for that figure in the Star Wars aisle, anywhere random, Doctor Who. I searched that store thoroughly and we couldn't find it anywhere until at the end of the night, we're like, well, it's like 8:37 p.m. We got to get going. Just pick up the stuff that you want now. And then we'll wait in the checkout. And then we're waiting in the checkout line. And Liam was with us during that toy hunt. And he looks over and they had all these Funko reaction figures all in an aisle, an entire horde of them on the pegs. And he somehow finds that Super Battle Droid hanging on the pegs with them. Somebody put him in there. I don't know if somebody hit him there or if it got mixed in because they have the same card backs, but you found that one and that made my night. Like, still have that figure card to this day. It is just a fond memory of Hastings and that figure. And then I also got the sound effects Planet Dalek. Those two right there sum up my memory of Hastings just before they closed. And I will cherish it forever, honestly.
I still can't believe that it was hidden behind some rinky-dink, just dumb figures. There's a piece of gold hidden around dirt.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it was like. So this figure is definitely solid. I would personally say it's an A tier, but it's just the battle droid, so he's easily going to get a B tier. He's still an awesome figure, and I still love him to this day.
I agree.
Now, what about this next one?
I'll let you cover this one.
So this one follows the same exact mold as the VC15 Clone Trooper, except this one is the 212th Legion, which is like a repaint of the same mold, same helmet, same everything. Personally, I really like this figure a lot, and what I like so much about this mold is how they could repaint it in so many different ways, and you can have new legions or battalions just like that, just from just simply repainting it. I really do appreciate this figure. I think it is pretty nice. I'd probably give it a B tier. It's just a little bit better than the VC15 clone. What about you?
I agree. I'm not the biggest fan of the 212th Battalion. I mean, I like them in the Clone Wars, but I've never really, I don't know, I've never been as much of a fan of their paint job as I have the 501st. So I don't love this figure, but I also totally know that it's a dope figure. So I would also say B tier.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty cool, to be honest. So, okay, what about this next one?
Farm Boy Luke. Well, Death Star Escape Luke. I like this figure. I like this design for the figure a lot, but I prefer his like actual farm boy look, where he's just got like the, I guess, moisture farmer belt, as opposed to the Stormtrooper one. And the Stormtrooper one looks good, but I prefer the other variant to this outfit. That being said, it's still a really great figure, so I would put it as an A.
Yeah, you know what? I think I have to agree with you. This figure for me, I really do love. It's the closest modern, besides 6-inch, like farm boy style Luke that we've gotten. And there's just something about it that really works. I think it's definitely the hair sculpt.
Oh yeah.
It's really, really cool, especially as another scene specific variant. I got to give it an A tier. I love it that much, just for us personally. I think there's just something about it that works so well.
On to R5. What can you tell us about this little fella?
Oh boy. So, R5D4, my favorite astromech droid in all of the original trilogy and probably all of Star Wars as well. Although I do love R4G19 as well. But this one, I think, is a very nice TVC figure. He doesn't do much, doesn't have any gimmicks, no anything like that. It's based off of the Build-A-Figure mold, which actually is my R5. Okay, maybe I don't have him on my shelf anymore, but I did have him up there for the most part, so I would see him like every day. I think I just moved him somewhere. But I really do love this figure, honestly. I love the card back. What can you say? It's R5.
Yeah.
Like, he is amazing. So for me, this one is my favorite R5 figure made to date.
I think his simplicity really lends itself to why it's so iconic. I think just based on the iconography alone. And I don't have any special connection to R5 like you, but I can't deny how iconic it is. And that being said, I would give it an A or B tier.
Yeah, honestly, I think I actually might have to give him an A tier just because really can't ask for more. He's just a perfect looking astromech, nice height, has the antenna. He could use a little bit of weathering, but we got another version like that in one of the special action figure sets. But I do much prefer this one more. Even then, it's awesome. I love him. So up next,
do you remember which episode this Stormtrooper is from?
Yeah, this one's an Empire Strikes Back Stormtrooper.
Okay, so for the Empire Strikes Back figure, and I don't have any direct close-up images of it, but is this the same helmet mold as the Sand Trooper? And I'm trying to find images.
So right. The helmet is not this one. This one is like the removable one. Remember where you can remove the Stormtrooper helmet? It's got the scars. This is pretty much the same like that.
Okay, I get the just now. Okay, so now looking at it, this figure mold for the Stormtrooper is the one that I like totally grew up on. This is
me too.
Essentially my Stormtrooper. I do like the newer molds that they've been putting out for the Shadow Trooper and the Rogue One Trooper. I think those are superior, but this is what I grew up on, and it still holds up, I think. The helmet is a little bit like a different color, almost. Like, it's not super noticeable, but given the different material, it's just off-white. And
yeah, unfortunately, it does yellow over time very badly, the chest or the helmet.
Yeah, and it's still pretty great. The under helmet is solid. I think that, yeah, that's kind of what people would picture being under a Stormtrooper helmet. The scars, the grimace. But it's also just a Stormtrooper. I would give it a C.
Yeah, I think I'd give him a C as well, just because even for nostalgia's sake, these are the Stormtroopers we grew up on. I love them to death. But at the same time, with the new Rogue One Stormtrooper, or even the Carbon Freeze Stormtrooper, which I can't lie, it does look very nice with the new helmet. And same body type as well, which I really do love this body type as well. I'll get that out there. I do like it.
Freeze Trooper is pretty fantastic. The only thing is you gotta buy 10 carbon freezing chambers just to get a sufficient lineup.
Yeah, that's the sad part. But yeah, I think he's a solid C. He's pretty decent. Now, next up, we have the VC42 Han Solo Yavin ceremony. Now, the idea for this figure is he's kind of a weird one, another scene-specific one, but they chose a weird head sculpt for this Han Solo, and I don't know why, but it reminds me of the Kenner large head Han Solo with like how frizzy and jagged his hair is. It's so weird, but it's not a bad Han Solo, but I can't say it's my favorite, nor would I say it's very definitive for A New Hope, especially with that hair. Like,
Yeah,
That's
I
out of this
agree.
world. So for me, I think I just have to give it a D, honestly.
I agree with you on this one. I have the I have the 3-pack where it's X-wing pilot Luke, old Ben Obi-Wan, and this basically I think it's the same body mold. Maybe I wouldn't be able to definitively say that, but it's got some deeper blue, more navy blue pants, and these ones are like bright blue. Like it doesn't show on the image as much, but when you have them in person, they're full, like they're solid blue, the color of your background blue. But the secondary release and 3-pack, and is just a deeper blue, and I think it's more accurate to A New Hope. The head sculpt is also different, and it's not the best still, but it vastly improved on the hair. So knowing that this was improved upon makes it feel a little bit more worth it to me. But the figure itself, I would give a D.
Yeah, I think they could probably do another A New Hope Han Solo and do a little bit better of a job. Now, what about this next one?
Commander Gree. I have mixed feelings on this one because I understand why some of my nitpicks don't make sense, but I still can't help but given the context of Clone Wars, I still can't help put them out there. This figure is solid, like from just solely Revenge of the Sith standpoint, not even including the Clone Wars. It's solid. It's amazing. I'm not familiar with all its accessories, but I do know that it's great. I know he comes with a backpack and blaster, and the paint apps themselves are really great. I don't remember if it's a new mold on the body or like the torso.
I think it's the
He's got
30th
the
anniversary one. It's pretty close to that one, just repainted it.
Yeah. But this one also has the removable helmet, and I feel like it's a little below the Commander Cody level of good, but it does hold up. It's not as big of a helmet, but it's also not too small. But I would have preferred solid, especially given how he meets his end. But onto my nitpick is that in the Clone Wars they show Gree to have like the red hair with like the 2 stripes, and I know some people think that design is stupid, but I think it's an interesting clone variant design, and obviously they wouldn't have known to include it at this earliest stage in development with Clone Wars had it not even come out. So it's definitely just a nitpick that doesn't even make sense, but I do kind of feel that way about it. I would have liked to see that. Obviously, it's impossible, but
yeah, I think they just did the 2007 mold in this case, so they just assumed it was like another Tamara Morrison. But
yeah,
I really do love this figure. It's got very nice paint apps, as you said. I love that it has his gun, the backpack, and then the binoculars as well. It's really cool. And honestly, if you ask me, just like Cody, Cody is a little bit better of a figure, but he's still an A tier if you ask me.
yeah. I say that he strides the line between A and B, but I would also give to say, yeah, it's an A.
Yeah, I think I have to give him an A just because it's Commander Gree. We all loved him in 2005. Thought he was a cool cone, and then boom, gets decapitated.
Yeah.
All right, so this next one is another pretty exciting figure. We have VC44 Luke Skywalker Dagobah Landing. One of the trickiest TVC figures you could buy in the market. Costs around $100 nowadays, and even then, back then, he was like a $50 to $70 figure. He was always just been expensive, but this one, whew, boy, it's a really nice figure. It really is. So,
Yeah.
just because of how amazing it is for just like a Luke pilot figure, but it's also in like his snow. I want to say it's for like his snow pilot gear because it's got like the hood as a separate sculpt that you can put on over it. And then it's got his X-Wing helmet, his gun, his saber. It's an A tier figure, if you ask me. It's really, really nice.
I don't like it as much as his A New Hope pilot suit because I love the original A New Hope pure orange color to him. But I also really do like the deeper orange of the Empire Strikes Back pilot uniforms. I would also say it's an A tier. I can't really think of anything particularly wrong with the figure itself. Obviously, as with every Luke, the face sculpt isn't matching to Mark Hamill.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I think he still gets an A tier for that. Now, what's your thoughts on this clone? Now, very much like VC15 clone with that style body, this one, oddly enough, is even more controversial than the last one. What's your thoughts on it?
I believe it. I can totally see where they're coming from. I think that the Phase 1 helmet design does not lend itself to being a removable thing. I think that with the Phase 2 helmet, you're able to get away with it a little bit more because of the under tubes. It differentiates, it separates from the body itself. But when you have the Phase 1 full triangle cone, it really connects and you completely lose the neck. I think Phase 1 figures, and this goes for modern technology as well, with the Black Series, I think it looks better if Phase 1 helmets are just a solid mold, especially since they don't really take off their helmets in Phase 1 gear very often. I feel obviously they did in the Clone Wars more because they were that was part of the effort to humanize the clones. But just in terms of Attack of the Clones figures, purely based on Attack of the Clones, just keep the helmet solid. I don't like this figure very much. I would actually give it a D because of that helmet issue.
Yeah, so I'm one of those on the opposite side of the spectrum. If you thought I was a simp for the VC15 clone trooper body, I like this one even more. I can't lie. The articulation is even better than the previous one, and oh my goodness, I don't know what it is. There's just something about it for how they were able to capture the look of the armor. I know the helmet looks gigantic. It totally looks like a bucket helmet. And the head itself is a little more full-sized, but if you ask me, I really do like the way this looks, especially on both Phase 1 and Phase 2 clones. Seeing those side by side together and you could see the same body and parts usage, there's just something that I really do like about it. Can't really explain it very good, but I do appreciate this figure.
I suppose the problem for me is not necessarily the size of the helmet. It's more so that with this specific helmet design, it completely takes away the neck, which really is part of the silhouette. Because in Attack of the Clones, and they kind of got rid of this during the Clone Wars, where it's just a flat, complete bucket. But in the Attack of the Clones, there was a little bit of a upward thing coming up from the neck.
Yeah.
And you kind of missed that on this one. Obviously, that's really hard to put into figure form, but it's made all the more noticeable when the helmet fits and almost touches his shoulders and his neck.
I think I'm just gonna have to compromise and just give him a D because I know he is very unpopular, unfortunately. But doesn't mean I don't like him.
Yeah.
All right, so this next one is the VC46. This is the ATRT driver. Kind of an interesting variant, actually, to make as a TVC figure. Kind of random and kind of specific.
Yeah.
And he's really cool, actually, because he's got his helmet, he's got the backpack, he's got a strap with, I think, a thermal detonator sculpted in. It's got what is that, grenade launcher thing? It's all thick. Yeah. And then also just the regular Blastech rifle. Honestly, he is an excellent figure. He's pretty cool.
He looks great. I think that him being an ATST, no, not ATST, I'm sorry, ATRT. I think him being an ATRT driver is just kind of why would you make that figure, especially as a solo, not including a vehicle? But it does look good enough to, I would say, justify it being either a B or a C.
Yeah, honestly, oh boy, that's tricky. I think I have to give him a B because he's got very nice coloring to him.
And also, the accessories are fantastic.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. So I think he is a pretty solid B. Oh boy. All right. What about this next one, Liam?
Lando. I actually really like this version of Lando. Obviously, I think I like the Empire Strikes Back version more. I flip back and forth. I definitely think it's going to be outstaged by the new version that's coming out for the Empire release. And it has cloth goods, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think so, yeah.
And it's got the blue and the gold. I think that's going to upstage this one significantly. But I do really like this design, and I think the cape, which it's kind of weird on most figures, but in capes, they back and forth. But there's a lot of opinions on cloth good capes, but I feel like this one drapes particularly well in the same way that it does in the movie. It's very much like it goes down, straight down. It doesn't really flare all that much, and it doesn't stick out the back. It's just
Yeah, I
it's a
think you're
solid
right.
look.
The way his cape flows is very nice. My only complaint is probably the strap that goes across the front of it. It's very
Yeah.
thick and noticeable,
It's very
but
good.
it unfortunately that's what happens with soft goods and especially capes. But as a general Lando figure, I think he's a solid B, honestly.
I would say C on account of the fact that his weapon holster is like a
It's like a
third
purse.
long. Yeah, it's like a big purse.
I think okay. I think maybe we'll just put him as a C, just because we know the Empire one coming out soon is probably going to blow this one out of the water as well.
Do you think we should end part 1 now?
Yeah, I think so. That's a pretty good coverage. We're at around 48 or so TVC figures so far. That'll conclude part 1 for this video. Be sure to stay tuned for part 2, where we finish the rest of the TVC figures on this list. Liam, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's late at night right now, but thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, so if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And as always, stay tuned for more geeker things.